And may we say a good afternoon to everyone here at 5 o'clock on the 17th of March. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. And welcome to the Township of Douro-Dummer and a very special meeting we're having today. Every year at this time, there's a 6-letter word that comes into our vocabulary, and that's called budget. And it's budget time again. And that is indeed the only reason for today's meeting. So I welcome all those who are watching live on YouTube and who are watching a recording, perhaps, of this meeting. I'd like to welcome you all. I'm going to call the roll for members of council who are in attendance. First of all, Deputy Mayor Moore.
Here.
Councillor Watt.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Landsman. And Councillor Watson. So we indeed have all members of council present. We also have a number of staff. Our brand new CAO, Alana Arthurs. Alana, welcome. And one of these days soon, we won't be calling you our brand new CAO anymore, but it's great that everyone gets to meet you. Our deputy clerk, Martina Chade-Hartwig, is here. A little wave. Our chief building official, Brian Fawcett, is not able to be with us tonight. Chuck Pedersen, our fire chief. Where are you there, Chuck? Good, thank you. Our manager of public works is Jake Condon. Hi, Jake. Our assistant manager of parks and rec, Mike Mood. Mike is there as well. Our temporary treasurer, who's been doing a super job for us, by the way, Paul Kramer, is here. Paul, you're going to be leading the way today. And Nicole Zenner is our legislative services administrative assistant. She's pushing the buttons for us. So I will call the meeting to order. All members of council are here. And just a very quick reminder, this is step number 1 in our budget process. Step number 1. There's no expectation that you should be digging deep and asking any huge questions just yet. I think we're here to hear what staff have come up with. Paul is going to be as clear as he can be. And if you do start to have questions, what we would like to see you do is email staff and get some answers, and they can be prepared for answers, because we're going to have more meetings along the process. So I think if we follow this, it's going to be a very smooth process to go through. So if you could remember that, we're here to listen basically today, and I hope that works out. Okay, so is there any pecuniary interest with any members of council on any of the discussion items we're into today? Okay, then without any further delay, I'm going to call on Treasurer Paul, and he's going to go over the draft capital budget and a complete overview from the managers, and we're all ears. Paul, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor Jones, and thank you everyone for coming together today. I think I've strategically set up this presentation so I don't have to do too much talking. I am going to rely on the managers to present their budgets. I think that's going to be a little bit of a change in how things have been done in previous years, but I do believe they are the subject matter experts on why we need a piece of equipment more so than I am. So I'd like you to hear the explanations of the capital projects from them. However, so we are going to start today with an overview of kind of where the budget is sitting, some high-level numbers. And even before we do that, though, I am going to turn it over to Martina, who is going to give a little bit of an introduction into this year's budget and just kind of discuss some of the challenges that we've had and that we've tried to deal with and our position on this year's budget strategically. Are we going to be? Is the screen being shared currently? The presentation?
There it comes.
Okay.
Perfect. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to introduce this budget for council and anyone who's watching on YouTube. So as everyone knows, the Township of Douro-Dummer and all of the world experienced a year like no other due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic led to low revenues for our Parks and Recreation Department, the Town Hall, and our front counter services, as facilities had to be closed due to local and provincial health regulations. The pandemic changed the way municipal business is conducted and forced the township to move to remote work and technological solutions to ensure that we could continue to hold council meetings, offer services to the public, while also keeping the community and staff safe. 2020 also saw a large turnover of staff with retirements, departures, and internal transfers. In looking forward to 2021, we're continuing to experience the COVID-19 pandemic. This is leading to increased unpredictability in regards to funding, service delivery, and revenue generation. The township has been fortunate to receive funding from the provincial and federal levels of government, which has greatly assisted in formulating the budget that's before you, which focuses on a comprehensive capital program. The budget is taking a different approach this year than in the past. We've done this due to the recommendations from the Service Delivery Review, along with feedback from council and members of the public. The focus of staff in the preparation of this budget was to maintain the operating budget and focus on capital projects. The budget that is being presented is a prudent one with a focus on the bottom line. This focus does result in less money being transferred into our reserves. And we're hoping that in 2022, when COVID is under control, staff and council can work on updating our financial policies and bring the focus back to a renewed municipal reserve program.
Thank you for that, Martina. Can we go to the next slide? So just to kind of finish the introduction here, I do want to thank everyone for their patience on getting this package and this presentation. I also want to thank the managers and everyone who's helped with this budget. It's been a learning curve on my end, and I think even some new managers involved in the process, and they've had they've met all the deadlines that I've asked and even met some quick turnarounds. So I do appreciate that from everyone. But I'm actually going to start here. I've done this process a few times in other municipalities, and I'm going to start when I give a budget book or presentation. These are the numbers that everyone wants to know. The rest of the presentation will be, what makes up these numbers, but what is the percent increase? And as Martina explained, we've really tried to keep status quo for operating. We've been able to do that, and we'll get into more of the operating presentation tomorrow. But we've been able to keep that at 0.6%. With the assistance of some of the grants from the province. And now what we're here today to talk about is capital. And you'll see from last year, it's a 5.4% increase, or the capital is responsible for 5.4% increase to the levy. We have a total increase on the levy of 5.8%. Those numbers aren't adding together, but I will make sure that there's a reason why. And then we have 1.1% growth in assessment. And so that lowers the need or the impact to the tax rate. And we end up with a 4.7% increase to the township tax rate. On the next little table, you'll see the impact per 100,000 of assessment. The assessment has been kept the same because it was going to be a reassessment year. So the actual assessment figures have been kept the same, and therefore the education rate has not changed. And there's no change to the residents from an education perspective. The last I checked, the county impact was going to be 2.2%, and ours is 4.7%. And that results in an overall increase of 2.9%. I do want to point out that these figures are slightly different than the budget book that you received on Monday, or that was released on Monday. I believe that showed a 7.4%. And what has changed is our manager of public works has received some more information about one of the proposed pieces of equipment that costed $150,000. And that project has been pushed back to 2022. And now that's brought down the overall budget in front of you. From there, we move to the next slide. And this is a lot of numbers on one table, but what it does show is for every $100 of property taxes, where it goes. So another way of thinking of it is the percentage breakdown of 100 of your average tax bill. And roads comes out, at the most at $18.31 of every tax bill, which makes sense. We have a lot of roads to maintain, and the machinery is expensive, and the capital maintenance of roads are expensive. So what you'll see is today we're here to talk about that $12.91 of capital, and that's the portion of the budget that will be discussed today. The breakdown of this year's proposed budget is a 30% request for a capital levy and a 70% request for operating. And so just to reiterate today, we are here to discuss the 30% of the capital. And there's a few important points to make on this slide, and Martina touched on it. So we have a rather large capital program all said and done, and I actually do believe it's pretty robust. But one of the ways that we've been able to do that is with two things: the use of some grant funds from both the provincial and federal governments, but also the use of reserves. In order to make this budget happen and make it a reasonable increase on the public, we have proposed to use some reserves to fund some major pieces of equipment and some other projects throughout the capital budget. This was decided on by looking at the balances that we have in some of the reserve accounts, and we felt that this was an appropriate amount. What I do recommend, though, is one of the projects that you received a report for earlier this year was to complete the asset management plan. And that plan will really lay out the needed reserve contributions going forward with a long-term view of our full capital program. It's something that I would have liked to give a better picture of in this year's budget, but that's really what that study is going to do, and it will lay out when capital projects are going to be needed, and there's going to be logic and reason behind it based on the risk of failure of that project, the current condition, and it'll lay out some steps and some financial scenarios of how to fully fund that program. We can move on to the next slide. This is a little bit different than what's been done in previous budgets. So what I call these projects are carry forward projects. these are projects that have been previously approved by council in previous budgets, but have not been completed or purchased. For example, for the fire department, there's some vehicles that were ordered in 2020, but just due to the nature of the procurement process and getting the vehicle made and shipped, that it was not completed by the end of 2020. In previous years, these projects would have been included as part of the overall budget, but I wanted to make clear that these projects have already been approved and are going to be moving forward, and they are commitments already made by council and the township. From here now, we're going to move into the next part of the presentation. I'm going to hand it over to each manager, and they are going to present the capital projects that are included in the capital program under their department or service. And up first, I believe we have back to Martina.
Thanks, Paul. So this is an overview of the general government corporate management programs. So the first item we have is the Back Dam and Warsaw Auxiliary Dam. Council has been aware of this project for a few years now, but 2021 is the year where it will hopefully take place. This is a joint project with ORCA, and in speaking to ORCA staff, they're in the process of applying for funding from both the provincial and federal levels of government. So we are hoping that that will bring the cost to the township down, as we're responsible for 90%. And this work is very important because especially the auxiliary dam holds quite a lot of water back, and the village would be quite at risk if that dam were to fail. The next item we've got is the demolition of the old house at the 5th Line property. That house, as many of us know, is quite derelict and has become a bit of a magnet for vandalism and other types of activities. So it's really essential that we demolish that house to reduce our liability, because if someone were to fall through the floor or some other, tragedy happened, we would be liable for that. So something for us to get cleaned up. The next project is also a joint project. This would be with Cape Head and the other townships in the county. This is the county wayfinding project. I believe Cape Head staff have come and presented this to council a few times. It was on the budget last year, but then was removed after funding was not received. So this project is back in case Cape Head receives the grants, but if grants aren't received, then we won't be moving forward with this project. Next slide. So the next item we have is building condition assessments. This would be funded through our efficiency funding, and it would also feed into our asset management plan. As you know, in 2019, we had a report completed by Greenview Engineering, and they did assessments of some of our buildings, but not all of them. This project here would complete the assessment on all of those buildings that were not included in the 2019 report, and it will feed into the asset management plan because we need those building scores to rate the buildings and assess our risk. The next thing we have on here is the HR evaluation and pay equity project. This is also funded by efficiency funding. This is directly out of the service delivery review from the HR recommendations they made. So this study, this two-part study, would include a skills inventory of all of the staff that we have here at the township. It would then modernize the job descriptions and then evaluate our salary grid and our pay equity review. Both the salary grid and pay equity have not had a full-scale review for many years, and it's quite essential that we keep those up to date and hitting the median in the county. The next item is new cubicle walls. At the start of COVID-19, we had looked into this, but the cost was just too great at the time, and it was also, procurement was very challenging. So we've gotten quotes from local suppliers, and this would also be funded through the efficiency fund. And these cubicle walls would not only reduce noise in the office, which can be very distracting for staff, It would also provide additional separation between the workstations, which would allow for potentially less germ transfer and a quieter and more sanitary work environment for all of our staff who work in cubicle type settings. So we're now moving on to projects related to the town hall. The first project for the town hall is a new sloped roof on the rear portion of the town hall. This project was actually budgeted for in 2015, and then it was carried forward to 2016, but it was never actioned. There was some engineering work done at that time, but the actual construction never took place. As you know, we had a bat problem in 2020 that really affected our town hall and had a lot of remediation. As part of that, the contractor had to access that part of the roof to ensure there was no bats left and to do a bit of remediation work. When he did that, he was able to see that some of the trusses in that section are not as healthy as they should be, and it's resulting in some structural deficiencies. So he has recommended, along with our chief building official, that this sloped roof be put on to address the structural and health and safety issues that are currently in place. The next item is the painting of the lower level of the office and the municipal portion where staff work. This was in our budget for 2020, along with the painting of the town hall, but as a request from council, it was split into a 2-year program. The town hall has now been painted, and that project went quite well. It came in well under budget, so we're hoping that the office and the lower level would also come in under budget. But we're now seeing quite a lot of wear and tear in our paint, and there's quite a few drywall repairs that need to be needed that are quite significant. So we would like to bring this project to council so that we can bring our space back up to a suitable standard. And then the last project for the town hall area is the update to municipal bathrooms. All of the bathrooms in the office and in the town hall are quite aged. They're from the original, not the original, but the renovation that was done in 2011. And many of those faucets and fixtures are not up to a more modern standard, and they're all touch fixtures. So we would like to make them non-touch fixtures and also high efficiency fixtures so that we can reduce the spread of germs, increase sanitization, and of course, increase our water conservation. And those are all of my capital projects I wanted to present to you.
So next up, we will have Chuck Peterson to discuss the projects related to fire services.
Okay, so first off, our bunker gear. So we continue to replace that as it goes out of service. And with volunteers coming and going, sometimes you can't always refit a set of gear from one person to the other. This year we hired 7 new recruits, and we were able to get 5 of them in our existing suits, but 2 of them we have to get new ones. So just that's what that's about, and that meets our 10-year personal protective equipment rule for interior firefighting. Our fire station 2, there was a council resolution that we just brought not too long ago here, and I think it was December, and so that's based on a funding grant of $100,000 to repurpose the original part of the Douro Public Works to become Fire Station 2. So again, that's there is a council resolution number before you there, and that is pending the funding. Our extrication tools, we started this a couple years ago, we've replaced the 2 oldest sets. So we're on to year 3, and there's 4 sets to be done. We're doing a full set this year and a partial set in between years. So this is the bigger year. Next year will be a smaller year, and then that'll update all of our extrication tools to meet the new vehicle technology and reinforcement areas that the old tools just won't manage very well or at all. Our fire hose, we do annual hose testing on all of our equipment. We typically have failures on those, so we just budget in anticipation of failed hose or damaged hose from response. Get the next slide. So our fire helmets was an interesting debate and education side. So last year we had some bit restriction because of the pandemic and getting some better testing, but we were able to get enough done to satisfy the needs. And with some input from a lot of our people, we decided to move ahead with it's like a European style helmet. We have replaced some of the ones that were damaged and out of service with the new design, and they're doing quite well, and people are growing interest in them. So this is it's good timing as well to replace these, as our new SCBA is arriving at the end of this week actually, and there's restrictions that'll probably be coming out with updates that are affecting with the visor of the old style helmet, and these ones will be updated to work with those potential new standards. So the idea is we've replaced a few last year and tested them out. We'd like to replace a good chunk of them yet this year that are positional changes and ones that are going out of date as well. And then to the rest, we'll do the final push in 2022, and we'll be updated to those helmets, which are a little bit different looking, but they're much safer helmet, and I think it's a good step for our fire department for safety. And the self-contained breathing apparatus, we did do a resolution for pre-approval up to $300,000, and so that again is arriving on Friday. So we'll put those into inventory, and our training will start with them actually on in April, and we'll get those into service. We weren't able to get a trade-in value; it wasn't worth that, but we do have some interest from another organization. So once we get our new stuff in service, we're going to group it all together and see what we can get to do that. But either way, even as it stands as a $0 trade-in, we are going to be under budget. So that's good.
Hello. I guess the first items that we have here for the Douro Community Center, the first one is our ice resurfacer. This was actually slated to be replaced last year. It's due for replacement every 10 years. So it is past replacement due date. So right now, if we do have some replacement value or trade-in value with that. So if we do push that off, it would be almost nothing for trade-in. For the second item, it's the harvest room flooring. Currently, it's an original tile floor in there, and it's starting to separate. I know we did the same flooring that was upstairs in the Wellington room currently about 4 years ago. So it has lasted a little bit longer than the upstairs floor. So our next item is the refrigeration ammonia detector monitoring. So right now, we don't currently have any monitoring of our if there's an ammonia leak in the room. TSSA requires us to do daily compressor room checks. So on the days that nobody's in the facilities, i.e. like Christmas and stuff like that, we actually have to have staff come in and check on the facilities. So this would help eliminate the daily check-ins. Also, if staff are in the facility by themselves and there is a failure, it also alerts management if there is a leak, so we can check in on our staffing. The third item or fourth item there is the in-floor heat by the Olympia room. Currently, the in-floor heat that's there is failed, and we're unable to repair it. It is in the concrete, so it needs to be jackhammered out and everything. So without that, all the ice builds up in that section, so it's causing a slip hazard. We were having difficulties dealing with that throughout the season. So this would help alleviate that buildup and the slip and trip. So the next one is the same as Douro Community Center to monitor our ammonia detection there as well. The second item there at Warsaw is our brine pump. It's the main pump that circulates the refrigerant through the floor. Simcoe has been recommending that it's due for replacement as of its age and the state that it's actually in. For example, if that pump was to fail, we would have nothing to circulate any refrigerant through the floor. So if the parts aren't available to rebuild, we could be potentially down for 12 to 14 weeks to order a new one. So we're just trying to get ahead of that so we don't have that happen and cancel our ice season. For the parks, we are looking at an infield groomer. Currently, we had some old field heralds that were donated to the Parks Committee or Parks Department. And since then, they have since broken and they aren't scratching the grounds and digging in anymore. So we're looking to get something new to replace that so we can have the level grounds and safe ball play. The second item there is after talking to the people that gave us the original estimate of the ball field tile drainage and play improvement. With all the costs of rising costs of everything since COVID has started, they're requesting that an additional 10,000 be added to our budget just to make sure that the project is within budget. Next slide. The Donwood Parks Committee is asking for $2,500 for signage. We currently did some new flower beds at Maryvale Park and the Donwood Fire Hall. And then with the new park equipment going in Clatonia, they're looking to put up some new signage to commemorate all that, those flower beds and everything. As well as the communities had a resident approach them for Frisbee golf baskets. They're looking for an extra some money to help put in these Frisbee golf baskets and work with a community member there installing that at the Daleview property that currently just sits idle and empty with just green space. And that's all for parks.
I'll speak about the historical committee. So in working with the historical committee, they would like to put more money forth for the lime kiln project. To date, there's been about $58,000 put towards this project. That included legal fees, the purchase of the land, and the work that's been done so far. In speaking to Whitey Hammersma, he is the mason that has been doing the remediation work. He feels that to get this project totally finished would cost $35,900. Some of that work that he's included does include landscaping work and more aesthetic type items. It would be possible to have our staff complete those items instead, or we could get quotes from landscaping companies to complete it to see if we would be able to find some cost savings there. In presenting this idea to the historical committee, they were not comfortable asking council for that full amount. They would like to ask council for $10,000 to continue on with this project.
We now have the library, and is Anne on the call?
I'm here.
I can speak to it, or would you like to? That's.
I can go ahead, and if you need to add anything afterwards, you're welcome to.
Okay, we'll try. Your connection was cutting out a bit there, so
Okay.
we'll give you a shot.
I've been having trouble. It's internet connection is always difficult at the library. So there's two items on our capital budget. First one is materials. So the big purchases books, but that also counts for magazines and DVDs and audiobooks. And so that's 12,500, and that's funded through the grant that every library gets through the Ontario government. And there is also this that comes from the DC Reserve, but there was very much lower found this year, so that had to be, that's why we're using the library grant instead this year. And the other portion was to get a new computer. Every year the library gets a new computer, just to make sure that we're keeping up and that we are always on top of our technology. The computer is the big component that patrons are using here, since like you can see, it's difficult to have access to computer and internet in the country. So a lot of patrons come here at the library to do the computer work. So it's important to have something that works well. So yeah, so $1,000 to get a new computer. And that's about it for us. We wanted to keep our budget low this year, thinking about COVID and the extra cost that had caused the township. So for this year, we thought we would ask for just those two, well, this item, the computer, and yeah. Did you want to?
I'm actually just checking. I wanted to confirm one thing in my tables here. So it's not mentioned on that slide, but it is proposed that the computer also be funded through the same grant as the books and computers. I just didn't indicate it there.
Okay, sounds good.
And so next up, we have Jake, Manager of Public Works, to present all of his roads capital program.
Thanks, Paul. So first up, we have a replacement of one of our snowplow trucks. These are projected to have a 10-year service life. This particular unit is 4 years past that service life. It's hasn't cost us anything to this point, but it's getting to that stage where some costs are going to be incurred to do some repairs to keep it in service. The second item is a pickup truck, kind of along the same lines. It's projected to have a 10-year service life. This has been pushed back 2 years as already. So before we start incurring major costs, it's wise to replace this unit. The next item is the Volvo Grader. This has been pushed ahead or moved ahead. It was scheduled to be replaced in 2023, and our older grader was scheduled to be replaced this year. However, through the township's mechanic, we've discovered some major repairs that are required, and it is recommended to replace this unit as soon as possible due to the high risk of failure. As well, this particular manufacturer is no longer producing graders, so the sourcing of parts will eventually become an issue in the future. We have a replacement of a pressure washer at the Warsaw garage. The current pressure washer there is an outdated model. It's a cold water model, which does not operate very well in the winter months. We do provide it with hot water. However, it's a cold water model, so it doesn't perform very well when hot water is introduced to it. So the new unit would produce its own hot water, as well as have suitable pressure to clean some of our heavy equipment. We need some high pressure, and as well, it'll work well in the all months for cleaning of the vehicles. The next item is the roads needs study. This is funded through the efficiency funding. This is required every 4 years. Was last completed in 2017. It will provide staff with critical data on the condition of the roads and help in scheduling future work. There's a replacement of approximately 40 meters of sidewalk in the village of Douro on the 4th line. This was council direction to apply this to the 2021 budget to see if this can be accomplished. As Paul mentioned earlier, I do have the new brushing unit that was in here. However, we have not had adequate time to evaluate all supplier options due to the pandemic. We've had issues getting some demo units and being able to see all the options available. So I feel the best option is to delay this and bring it back in the 2022 budget with a better understanding what's going to suit our needs within the township. The next items here are surface treatment projects. I'll just kind of skim through these quickly. Most of all of Donwood will be receiving a single surface treatment application. So a majority of these are the village or in Donwood area. Daleview Road is phase 2 of the 2-year project, and this project will be completed this year. Douglas Road is will be receiving 2 double surface treatment application, as well as a top up of gravel to restore the crossfalls and etc. that were lost over the winter. This is the phase 2 of this project as well. Douro 4th line is a single surface treatment application. Dummer Asphodel Road, there's 3 sections there that is a split project between ourselves and Asphodel Norwood. Asphodel Norwood will be looking after the coordinating this work. Next slide, please. Indicom Drive is a double surface treatment application, as well as gravel to restore the crossfalls. There's another item there for Indicom Drive. As per county spec, off a county road, it's required to have an asphalt entrance or apron. This is our responsibility, seeing it's a new road, and so that has to be budgeted for. As I mentioned, Kingsdale, Maryvale, Orchard, Platy, those are all Donwood single surface treatment applications. Rock Road is phase 2 of the 2-year project, which will see gravel applied to restore the crossfalls and the 2 coats of surface treatment to finish that off. White Lake Road is a new project. It's going to be a 2-year project. This year will be the construction part of the project, where we'll do some ditching, brushing, replacement of culverts, and prep work for the following year, where the surface treatment will be applied. Now we're into our gravel roads. We have the 3rd line here is going to receive 3 inches of gravel. Some of these roads have received brushing and ditching in previous years, so it's our new process to apply 3 inches of gravel every 5 years instead of waiting the 10 years. So you'll see these some of these roads pop up a little sooner than you have in the past. Third line of Dummer from County Road 8 to the south is gravel and brushing. The fourth line of South Dummer to Cooper Road, or Cooper Road to the north limit, is gravel and ditching. Center Road from Highway 28 to County Road 32 will receive brushing, ditching, and culvert replacement. It received gravel last year. Douro First Line will receive brushing and ditching and culverts replacement. Douro First Line will receive ditching. There's some minor ditching there left over to complete, and that's what we're going to complete on that. The Douro First Line from Division Road to County Road 8 will receive gravel, brushing, and ditching. Third line from Lynch's Rock is receiving brushing, ditching, and any culverts that need to be replaced. The Douro Fifth Line is just a gravel application. This is our 3 inches that every 5 years it's already had its brushing and ditching. Douro Fifth Line from Division to County Road 8 is a gravel, brush, and ditch project. Ninth line from County Road 32 to Nassau Road received gravel last year. It's a ditching and culvert replacements where needed. Ivandale Road is off White Lake Road East. While we're doing the work at White Lake Road East, it's I feel it's wise to do this work on Ivandale as well, which will include gravel, brushing, and ditching, and that whole area will be up to date. Payne Line is going to receive brushing, ditching, and culvert replacements. And this next slide is our brushing projects. I picked the fourth line of Dummer. We've received some concerns and issues, or we've had concerns and issues on these sections of road for quite some time. The brushing along the roadsides and in the ditch lines is vital for the safety of the traveling public. It also improves the sight lines for drivers, restores the proper drainage in the ditches, and it increases the snow storage during the winter maintenance. Nassau Road is on there as well from County Road 4 to the 9th line. This has been completed, and many of you maybe have seen the results of what this brushing looks like and how it improves the road for the motorists. I believe that's it.
Thank you, Jake. I think if there's some questions from council that we can open up now, be aware that we may not have the answer to you off the top of our heads here. We can do our best. There will be a meeting next week as well for council to ask questions. We are asking if you have recommendations or proposals or something you want to discuss specifically to let staff know, and we can either try to answer your question in advance or we can get it onto the agenda. The format of next week's meeting will be that there will be specific items discussed, and each item can be voted on separately. And then it's very clear for staff when we go back and look what changes were made between the first and final or second draft. So having said that, we can open it up for some questions if there are any pressing questions at the moment.
I think if there's some basic questions, that's fine, but I think the process of listening, and don't we meet again tomorrow night, Martina, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, so tomorrow will be
That's
up.
for the operating, yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's fine. Anybody ask a question if they want, but if we can save it and if we can email it to staff, we can deal with it with all the right answers. Heather and then Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just it is a high level question more around some of the numbers that were presented this evening. I saw that there were, particularly in Public Works budget, but I think in Parks and Rec, items to replace, proposed items to replace equipment. Are the numbers of being proposed factoring in the potential resale value? Or is that resale value something that would be considered above and beyond once that item is purchased?
I can speak in general when we've had budget meetings with staff, that is always part of the conversation. So where possible, we have factored in those costs of trade-in so we are showing the net cost after trade-in.
Thank you, and no further questions from me. And thank you, Paul, and to the rest of the staff for putting together such a great detailed report. It's a good run through this evening.
Great way to do this, really is. Carl, go ahead. You're muted, Carl.
Okay, I as well want to thank Paul and our managers for putting this together. I like the format. It's very clear, great detail, and I just want to confirm that our next meeting we will have a chance to debate certain items.
Well, the next meeting is tomorrow night, and it's going over the operating side of things.
Right.
Then the next meeting, that's when I'm seeing the door wide open with all the questions. Paul, is that right?
Yeah, that's our proposed approach.
Yeah. Okay.
A couple questions. The two carryovers that were carried from 2020, the fuel pumps in Douro and Warsaw, and the $60,000 for the drainage at the Douro-Dummer or at the Douro Park. Have they been committed to?
So a carry forward project, I would say, has been committed to because it's been approved in a previous year's budget. One of the reasons I do present it is always in council's power to change an approval. And I wanted to be upfront about what those projects are and what is outstanding. Okay. However, for staff to move forward with those projects, nothing needs to be approved and no further approval needs to be granted by council. And that is why in the Parks and Recreation budget, you actually see a request for additional funds to complete one of the carry forward projects. And that's because it has carried over a year, and now the infield drainage is now more expensive due to inflation and increased cost of materials.
So there's been no commitment to contractors to start that work?
Well, that's a different question. I was talking philosophically from a budget. I would look to Mike Mood on those questions.
Are you there, Mike? Good.
Yeah. Hi, Carl. Just saying to that. Yeah. No commitment's been made to any contractor for any of the previous year carryover work.
Okay. And what about the gas pumps, Jake?
Yeah, there's been no commitment there. Chuck's been kind of doing the lead on that, but I don't believe there has been a commitment.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just a quick one, maybe a silly question, but if and when we want to submit in questions to staff, who do you want copied on that? Just the manager of that department, or do you want us to copy CAO, deputy clerk, and Paul on them also?
I think if you send it to one person, Paul can be the quarterback, I would assume, and divvy it up.
I may actually request someone else to be quarterback. I am pulling double duty right now, this past Friday was my final day with the township.
Oh,
but,
right. Okay. Yes. You're on the sidelines now.
So just to
Yeah.
make sure that the emails do get answered in a more timely manner and they flow to the right person, I would recommend CCing me. You can also CC Elena, Martina, and then direct the question directly to the manager.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nope, that's good. And make sure Alana gets copied and all this stuff too, as well as Martina. Okay, good. Okay, any other comments? That's basically the way it's working. It's a very slick procedure. We'll do the operating tomorrow night at 5 and listen and suck it all up. Then you can ask questions and send emails and get all your thoughts out. And for those watching at home, there will be plenty of opportunity for public comment and public input and questions and answers and all those kinds of things. There's nothing being done behind closed doors here. We're trying to come up with a fair budget. Okay, well, before we end, Alana, maybe I'll ask you for your vibes about this process. It's brand new for all of us, especially you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's definitely brand new to me. I did have a quick opportunity to take a look, so it's been good for me to have an opportunity to look at the costings and what is there and some areas of the municipality that I may have not been familiar. So I appreciate this as much as council does tonight, and I thank Paul for his work and Martina most definitely for going over this and letting me preview it ahead of time and giving me some background. So it looks like a good budget to me. I think council should be pleased, and hopefully we get through tomorrow and the final passing of the budget and everybody is happy with where we're at.
Good. Thank you, Alana and Martina, all the work you've done. And to all our managers out there, to Chuck and Mike and Jake and Ann and everyone. Comment, Martina, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just for the benefit of those who may be watching on YouTube, if they would like to participate in any of these meetings, they're more than welcome to send me a request and I can add them to the list, especially for our meeting on, I believe it's the 24th, which is more of our debate style meeting. If members of the public would like to join that, that would be wonderful.
So please send an email to Martina and we'll make sure you're included. Okay, thank you all very much. I'm not seeing any other hands. I think that's a great step one. And I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn. From Heather and Sheila. All in favor? All opposed? That motion is approved. Thank you to everyone for listening and for watching, and Paul for all your great work. And we thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, same time, same channel.